Good morning. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So the first one is, if you were going to take a road trip, would you want to invite your least favorite person to join you in that car ride?
No.
No. Okay. So let's imagine that you are going on a road trip, and I know all of us here have at least one passenger pet peeve that we have for people, and I want you to think about that. I see you say, well, I want you to think about that pet peeve. And we're going to go around the table and say, this would be my pet peeve if someone's going to join me on a ride. I'll go first. It absolutely frustrates me and it challenges me emotionally and it drains my energy when someone gets in the car and they put their dirty feet, dirty shoes, talons on my dashboard. Yes. Okay, so that's mine. So what's yours? It's safe to say that we all have our passenger pet peeves, and we all stated that we would never take our least favorite person or want to be experiencing these things emotionally with our time and with our energy. So then why do we allow those same people in the car for the ride of our lives, right? Healthy boundaries is not about keeping toxic people at bay or arm's length. It's about placing you in the driver's seat of your life. It's about putting you behind the wheel, you picking that lane, and you thriving in it. So today, I'm going to share the critical boundaries that I feel are the top 3, and that's with our time, our emotions, and our energy. We struggle with it a lot because healthy boundaries, they define our identity. But I don't think we're ever taught that. I think, we're taught, don't talk to strangers, don't get in a van with a guy who's offering you some chocolate and stuff like that, but that doesn't define who you are, what you like. And clearly, we all know what we like for someone to ride with us if we're going on a road trip. But if someone keeps offering you scrambled eggs in the morning, do you know that there's poached, hard-boiled, sunny side up, an omelet? Do you know what you like, or are you just eating the scrambled eggs in the morning because that's what people have been serving you? So healthy boundaries is finding your identity. Healthy boundaries is also clarifying expectations in your relationships. And that's also in your business and in your personal lives. And then finally, it's about self-respect. When you respect yourself with who you are, others in turn will respect you and respect your boundaries. So, why do we struggle with setting boundaries? We struggle for 5 reasons. Number 1, it's a woman thing, it's guilt. Oh, hello, you're not gonna join us? Holidays, right? And newlyweds, new relationships, it's tough because everybody has their tradition. And then you're not coming over, and we feel this guilt. We feel guilted into doing something. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
The second thing is fear of missing out. So that could be, even though we know news could be negative, we're still gonna scroll on social media knowing that maybe I have my limit today and I need something positive, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I have fear of missing out. The third reason is because we don't know what healthy looks like for us. We don't know how to identify that. What would that look like? The fourth reason we struggle is because even though we could communicate them clearly, they're not always kindly. It's not always where people understand and can respect you because that just doesn't happen. Sorry, David. It was a couple years ago, we were dating, and David would get me red roses. And I know, what woman doesn't love to receive red roses? It would be either on our anniversary, or it was an anniversary of when my dad passed away, or his birthday. My mom was still living at the time. And every time these flowers would come to the house and he would be away and I'd get these red roses. And it made me sad, and then I felt frustrated and agitated. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? And if I just blurted it out and said, what the heck, David? I hate red roses. That's not my color. Why was I feeling that way? So I had to sit back and actually look, why was I feeling that way? Why didn't I like red roses? Well, my dad would grow, he mastered the art of growing red roses. And every single morning, he would bring just a small one. They weren't like, massive extravagant. He would bring a small one in a teeny tiny little vase for my mom for breakfast in the morning. And when he passed, I just felt like that was intimate. That was their thing. And I didn't realize, but that made me sad, right? And it wasn't sad that David got me those, but it was a recognition, it was a trigger. So when David came home, I was like, are you in a good space? Can we talk about this? I just want to share with you because I know this takes time to order them. And I just had this feeling and discovery, and I just want to share this with you. That's creating a boundary. And I'll tell you after that, I have not received any other red roses.
Or any other flowers. Or gifts. Or nothing. It's all gone.
But it's little things in identifying and how you communicate them. And number 5, I believe we're really fearful and uncomfortable in the fact that we have to enforce consequences. Because when someone crosses the line with your boundaries, there has to be a consequence. Because without consequences, you don't get respect. Without consequences, people are not going to take you seriously. So that's really difficult too. When you create healthy boundaries around your time, it's truly about creating structure, determining where in your life you need structure to support the goals in your life. Boundaries, as I shared with that story, they don't have to be extravagant. They just have to be established. All right, so what would be 3 questions that you could ask yourself regarding setting healthy boundaries for your time? And the first one is, when I'm around family, when I'm around friends, and it could be work, so do personal and professional, but when I'm around these individuals, am I truly present? What's distracting me? Time is precious, and it's about connection. So you are seeking connection when you are spending time, but are the people that you're with receiving that connection? That's what you have to ask yourself. The second question is, what or who is overtaking my time for self-care? What or who is overtaking my time for self-care? I recently saw a presentation and they had I just thought it was the coolest quote, and it was, self-care is a bigger landscape than exercising and eating. Self-care is a bigger landscape than exercising and eating. And I was like, whoa, because most of the time it's what we think. Or we might think, do a little mindfulness for 5 minutes, and although that's helpful, but did you make time to do that? And then the final thing is, write down 2 things. What is healthy and what is realistic? Because just what you think is healthy does not mean it is realistic to achieve. Does that make sense? I'll give you an example of how to communicate this. I had a couple of girlfriends, there was about 6 or 8 of us, and it was during COVID, so everybody, we were starving for attention, right? We all meet out for dinner, and we hadn't seen each other, and we're masking, but here in Florida, we can eat outside, so we're very fortunate with that. And everyone, I'm looking around, everyone has their head down on their phone except one. My other friend was FaceTiming with her grandson. And I'm just sitting there going, I put my hair and makeup on. It's Florida, so you kind of have to shave your legs. I shaved my legs for this, right? And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I could have sat at home and FaceTime with everybody. I can totally keep in touch by text with everybody. Why did I get dressed up to come out and to nurture a relationship? What can I do? So that really bothered me. I came home and shared with David. He's like, you need to practice what you preach, babe. I'm like, I do. So what was healthy and what was realistic? So I pulled a friend of mine aside and I said, is this a good time for you? And that's the first thing I would share with you to say. It's never, when you look at someone and you're gonna be vulnerable, because that's what this is when you set a healthy boundary. What not to say is, we need to talk. That never goes anywhere good. But what you can say is this a good time for you to talk? Are you in a good space today to talk? I have something of self-discovery I just want to share with you, or I feel vulnerable. And when people hear the word vulnerable, they're like, whoa, tell me. So I talked with my girlfriend and I said, look, I love seeing everybody. We have busy lives. It was so much fun. However, next time, let's put our phones down until after dinner. We can take a group picture, because I really want to nurture our friendship in person. And that's really difficult to do when the only connection that we have is Wi-Fi. And that's kind, that's clear. And you know what? None of us have our phones out unless we're out at the end and we take a picture. That is how you set a healthy boundary. So one last thing I'm gonna ask of you, take your driver's license out. I know you got the text this morning. You guys are like, what are we doing?
What the
Who are we selling?
But Put them in the middle with your mom's maiden name, social security number, good stuff.
One final request. I want you to look at your picture. And I want you to think about the time that that was taken. Are you happy in that picture? I could tell you through several driver's license photos I've been going through a divorce, and I look like I was going through a divorce. I mean, it's amazing what you look like. Look at your address. Is that address creating peace, kindness, clarity, creativity, and passion for you? Are you living already in your dream home? Or is it a place where you say, maybe not yet? Truth be told, I kept my North Carolina driver's license until I moved here. I knew I wouldn't live there all my life, but I didn't know where I'd end up. And once I got here, I felt home. Does that make sense? Look at your driver's license and ask yourself, who or what is distracting me, is not contributing, is negative, anything that doesn't help produce you into growth. And ask yourself, are they still present in my life? Now look at the renewal date, because everybody's renewal date is going to be different. Set a goal for yourself. Will I look happier? What would that look like to you? Am I gonna smile for once in my camera on the driver's license? What does that look like for you? Will I be healthier? Will I be healthier emotionally, physically, spiritually, or financially? Give yourself a goal. What would it take for me to be healthier? I was cleaning out my parents' house after they had both passed. And I found my dad's driver's license, and it was tucked in his wallet, still on the bedside table. He passed away in 2010, and my mom just couldn't put it away. So I'm looking at it, and you know, my dad was just like a serious guy, but I mean, I know who smiles. I mean, we try to smile on our driver's license, but he was smiling. And it hit me because this is a man who fought for his life fiercely for the last 14 years of his life. And I knew that he was happy with what he had done in his life and the passengers that he chose to have join him. And the renewal date on his driver's license was just a few months after he had passed, just a few months. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about time, and I'm like, you know, time is precious. We're only here for an infinite amount of time on this planet. So you get to be picky about who and what you give your time to. The last time I spoke to my dad, he asked my mom and I to sit on either side of him and hold his hands. And then he grabbed our hands gently and clearly, tearfully, and courageously, he looked us in our eyes and he said, "Thank you so much for joining me. It's been quite a ride." So my question to you is, what's your ride gonna look like? Thank you.
That's a nice story. Thanks for making me cry.